As Vice Dean at the Faculty of Forest and Environment, Carsten Mann heads the Department of Sustainable Forest Resource Economics at the Eberswalde University for Sustainable Development and is part of the innovation network Ecosystem Services Partnership Germany. The focus of his work is the analysis of political and economic design possibilities for the provision of ecosystem services, as well as transdisciplinary sustainability and transformation research. In particular, the transfer of scientific knowledge into practice is a central interest of his work. Carsten presents InnoForest, a Horizon 2020 funded project to develop innovative policy and business models for the sustainable provision and financing of forest ecosystem services.
I would like to talk about governance innovations for forest ecosystem service provision, some reflections from the InnoForest project. The idea that forests can be managed according to different forest functions, and attached to these functions we can find a range of forest ecosystem services where we as a society gain some benefits out of, it's not new. In fact, it is a long-standing management paradigm. But when we look in reality, the sustainable provision of the wide range of forest ecosystem services, especially the regulating and the cultural ones, so the ones that have more the character of public goods and which don't have a market price attached to them, it's quite challenging. And these challenges are rooted in a range of different conditions. First of all, we talk about very diverse forest management systems and also a diversity of forest management approaches and institutional settings. On the other hand, we can see a growing societal demand for a range of forest ecosystem services, and also we are confronted with a lack of scientific knowledge. So the linkage between a forest function, a forest ecosystem service, and the benefits we derivate out of them, it's not that a clear-cut case. But when we look in reality, we can see there's quite a range of many promising examples that are existing that successively provide different kinds or bundles of forest ecosystem services. But these successful examples are often very local and operating in niches. So our idea was we need to better understand these innovations and their working conditions, and then to debate if and how we can support their development. We did this in an EU innovation action. Now, an innovation action is a different funding format than a research project. It puts practice center stage and science the task to support practice partner. In our innovation action that was happening in a call for the establishment of new policy and business models for forest ecosystem service provision, it was running for about 3 years with a budget of 4 million euros. We gathered about 16 different partners from 9 different countries, and about half of the partners are rooted in science and the other half are rooted in practice. Now, core of the project were 6 so-called innovation regions. These regions were located across Europe, representing different biophysical and institutional context conditions. And at the core of each region, we can find a different governance approach. About half of them were kind of novel business models or payment schemes for forest ecosystem services, like for carbon sequestration or for the provision of habitat for species. And the other half were new networks and actor alliances to gather a range of very heterogeneous actors in order to increase, for example, the wood value chain or to provide bundles of forest ecosystem services. So how did we assist innovation development in these regions? Our project was built on a very complex conceptual approach. At the heart of the approach was a mapping exercise that first depicted the different biophysical and institutional context conditions we can find. Here an example of different forest ecosystem service maps grouped by ecosystem services, like for the provision of wood, but also for regulating services like for water supply, erosion control, or the provision of habitat. With these maps, of course, it was possible to overlap them to identify multifunctionally used ecosystems or combinations of different forest ecosystem services. Now, in these maps, we could zoom into our regions, and then we set up something what we called a constructive innovation assessment approach. And at the heart of this approach was a series of workshops where we did a visioning exercise. Where do you see your innovation in 10 years? We did a prototype development. What would be the idealized model of this innovation? What would be good working conditions? And then a road mapping approach, what needs to be done in reality in order to bring this vision into practice. To give you an idea of this, here is an example of our innovation region Eisenwurzen in Austria. When the project started in 2016, we can see that value chains for sustainable forest and wood products were not really existing. Consumers were not aware of the wood and the different values attached to wood products, and also kind of stakeholders in the region run out of ideas what they can do in order to improve the wood value chain. So trust needed to be created and capacities for innovation unlocked. During the InnoForest project, then we gathered more than 100 stakeholders out of this and neighboring region with help of steering network alliances. So with workshops, focus groups, and task force meetings. And in these meetings, 3 forest ecosystem service governance innovations were developed. At the end of the project, there was a certain awareness created of the importance of networking along the forest wood value chains, and new linkages between the actors were created. Importantly, kind of hidden champions from the region were promoted who actually had very good ideas in mind. Some of these ideas then became reality. So for example, here on the top left, you can see the new house of the firefighters made out of wood. On the right, the re-establishment of a historical wooden bridge, and below some examples out of the realm of nature tourism, like tiny houses for camping or wooden-based guest houses with regionally produced furniture. So basically, what was very crucial in our project was to bring these diverse stakeholders together, and this with help of a very structured, facilitated stakeholder network building exercise. And in these exercises, we then could be able to set up workshops in order to create visions and pathways in the future for facilitated innovation development. Further, it was important to maintain a direct linkage to forest ecosystem services and also to actively discuss about new business models and payment schemes. 2 things appeared to be very crucial. One was the importance to negotiate these different interests and also the attached trade-offs in the region, as this is unavoidable. We have a diversity of stakeholders, and these have very different ideas of what and how a forest should be managed. And there is some ambiguity in these objectives, and this ambiguity needs to be made transparent. And often there is no right or wrong decision, but it's simply a decision over preferences. And the more transparent these are made, the better carried and sustainable the innovations are running in the region. The second is that policies matter. The institutional framework can crucially enable but also hinder and prevent some ecosystem service governance innovation development, because they rely on very different approaches of how to deal with diversity and of how dealing with conflicts. Central is participation. That turned out to be crucial nearly all the time. And for this, the active fostering of stakeholder networks and collaboration turned out to be very, very helpful. Factors that conditioned innovation development can be grouped along 2 axes. The first one is on individual level, and here leadership is crucial. The promotion of hidden champions, the promotion of change agents that often can be found in regions that have good ideas in order to break occurring path dependencies. There's a need for knowledge on forest ecosystem services and about different governance approaches that can be found in reality. And there is a need for new communication and marketing strategies in order to foster the provision of forest ecosystem services and to identify new user groups. On institutional level, it turned out to be very crucial that upfront benefit transfer is occurring in order to bring stakeholders into the position to engage in innovation activities. The design of new transsectoral contracts that allow for public-private partnerships and also the advancement with payment schemes and financing schemes was very important. But for them, we need to be aware that they are building also on trust and some considerations of fairness and equity perceptions. If you would like to learn more about the InnoForest approach for fostering forest ecosystem service provision, you can find more information on our webpage on innoforest.eu in form of policy briefs, but also methodological fact sheets, and of course, all the different reports and deliverables we have worked on in these past 3 years. For this, all the best for your innovation action and good luck.